Morning, everybody. Thanks for being here. Wait just another minute. How many people watched too much cable news the last half of the day yesterday? Anybody? No, none of you guys? That was crazy. Weird day. Okay, let's get started here. One more person. Okay, so if you didn't already see my message, I'm having trouble with my scanning app to get that vocab test up. I would say just screw it and forget it, but I don't want to take away the opportunity for one more full credit test grade for you guys, since that's what we're planning on doing. So hopefully I'll have that up this morning. If I absolutely can't, I will let you know one way or the other, probably by, I would say probably by noon. Okay, so let's still, assuming I get it up, do that today. I'll check it in the morning and we can still do corrections tomorrow. Okay, because mostly everything else is pretty much finishing up, right? You do want to finish grammar lesson 13. That's due by tonight. And obviously we've finished the novel, hopefully. And I'm going to talk through part 6 in class today. Exam is what it is. I think I've already talked about that enough. I think what I'll probably do is just, I'll make an announcement. I'll probably put something on an agenda tomorrow, even though we're not going to have live session. And I'll probably say that I'll open it up at 9 o'clock and you have so-and-so amount of time to get that done. You know, maybe 9 to 12 or something like that. And you can be as prepared as you want for it and turn that in. I'll have a rubric ready tomorrow to kind of tell you what I'm looking for, but I'll give you the basics. So I think that is everything that is going on. Sorry about the mix up of the vocab test. So let's, why don't you guys go ahead and get your Myson books handy and access your answers to the study guide. I'll give you a minute to do that. And then we'll kind of talk through it. Does anybody need to get up and go get some Kleenexes because they're going to cry more now that we're going to talk about it, and you already cried a lot like when you're finishing reading it? Come on, admit it. Tears were shed. If you didn't at least get a little sad reading the end of that story, I think that means you're dead inside. I'm just saying. So I hope you're not dead inside. I remember I started teaching that book. I'd read it before, but I started teaching it to 9th grade honors English like 2 or 3 years ago, and I reread it over a summer. And I remember just like lying on the couch, and I remembered what the ending was from when I read it either in high school or college or something again. And just like when it was coming, before it even happened, because I knew it was going to happen, I was like, tears were just like welling up. I was like, no. And you tell yourself, oh no, don't let that happen. And you know it's going to happen, right? Did a lot of you kind of know what was going to happen just by the foreshadowing that happens all through the book? You could kind of see it coming. I bet a few of you did, yeah. Pretty obvious, you know. I would say that the foreshadowing in this book is not subtle. It's pretty obvious, right? Over and over and over again, there's this like, have the strength to kindly, even though it's difficult, put something or someone out of its or his or her misery, right? Okay, to the questions then. So like I was saying, we kind of see the theme come full circle, right? And you saw it all the way back to really like Candy's dog probably was the biggest instance of seeing something like this going on, you know, kind of a foreshadow, almost like metaphor, allegory to what happens at the end. And this is something we can probably all relate to on some level. Maybe you've had a relative who ended up in hospice, right? Because they had cancer and eventually they had to be let go. And that is pretty much like putting someone down in the end, even though we don't really think about that, right? We keep them comfortable, but then we purposely let them go. what we call euthanasia, right? And so what George does at the end is kind of a euthanasia in a way, right? It's giving Lenny the best fate and best death that could be possible amongst some really bad choices, right? That would happen otherwise. To the questions. So number one, why does the son of a bird skittering over dry leaves cause Lenny to jerk his head up and look around? Why does he drop his head again when he sees the bird? And it's kind of interesting that we have another section, just like the very beginning of the book, that highlights these aspects of nature, just kind of going about its business, no matter what's going on with humans, right? Like the world keeps spinning. But anyway, that's a pretty straightforward question. What was he looking for yet did not see? Time to talk. Trace, thank you.
I said I think he's looking for George to see if he's there, because he wasn't hiding in the brush.
But George, that's right, of course. Lenny did make it. What place is that Lenny's gotten to here? Do we is that obvious enough to us?
Isn't it the green the pool house?
It's not a pool house, but it is a place where a pond is, and it's the place where they were at the very beginning, right? It's the place where they were when they talk about what happened in Weed, and George is telling Lenny, if anything like that ever happens again, you make sure and get to this place. And so Lenny was able to successfully get to this place, right? And that's why he's looking for George, because this was their plan, right? And George eventually gets there, but he has not yet. Instead, it's just kind of the world moving on, and there's animals moving. And, but yeah, he's waiting for George. All right, so second question was, how does Lenny's trust in George help George with a clear opportunity to take Lenny's life? And what do we think of that? Number two, that's the big question. How does George let's just kind of paraphrase how George goes about this. I think that kind of covers number three too. We can kind of do this at the same time. Can someone kind of just take us through how George goes about this, what he says, and what he's able to do? Oop, bad connection problems. Anybody? Okay, all our heads are moving again now. Can somebody answer number at least number two? Easy question, guys. Come on. Finish up that participation. What does George have Lenny almost kind of pretend, but really maybe able to see in his mind's eye? Go ahead, Elaine.
Their house. Basically what they were talking about, the whole story where they're gonna live with the rabbits and stuff.
Exactly. Right. Now, why do you think he does that? What's the use and what's the purpose of that? We know they're not getting it, right? And we know probably at that point what George is going to do. Why would he bother to do that? How does that make sense? Does it make sense to you?
I'm not for sure because I really don't know. I was thinking maybe so like he can imagine it before he like goes to it, I guess. Where there's no problems, like he said, and no one's after you, or he said something like that. I'm not sure.
Yeah, no, I think that all makes sense. You may want to maybe kind of piggyback on that a little bit. Go ahead, Aiden.
I think that he did that so that he could.
You froze up there, Aiden.
Give a happy thought before he goes.
Okay.
So
good.
give him like an idea.
Yeah, I think there is a such thing as being humane enough to let someone pass away in peace rather than passing away in conflict or violence, right? Like, I mean, what's he gonna do? Like tell, all right, Lenny, I'm gonna shoot you in the head now. And then Lenny's horrified and dies that way, right? Does it matter? Well, I think it matters, right? Let someone pass away in peace and almost like what she was saying before about how it's almost like he really is going there, right? If you think of it in terms of like, an afterlife, heaven type point of view, that he's kind of talking about. I think that's what George kind of means, right? Like you are going to that place in a way. Okay. So why does George reassure Lenny about their plan, right? It's on a literal level to distract him as he, prepares to put a bullet into the back of his head. But it's a way to put him in a place of peace, at least figuratively, before he goes. Okay, so up to number 4. So Slim, interesting character, always kind of been there. Why does Slim support George's decision to kill Lenny? Sandia, go ahead.
I put that Slim supports George's decision because he understands that George didn't have any other options but to kill Lenny. And he is also aware that how difficult it must have been for George, since he knows that Lenny and George were like really close.
Good. Slim has always recognized in a non-suspicious way how George was very caring for Lenny and that they really had a thing, and maybe even almost in an envious kind of way, not bad envious, but just kind of an admiring way. Like he understood, especially since George was taking care of someone who had like reduced mental capabilities and stuff, and he recognized the good person that George was, and wants to reassure him that the only right thing to do with the remaining options was what he did. So. And it's kind of, and then he says, let's go get a drink. And it's kind of suggested that maybe Slim and George will continue to be good friends. Maybe the one kind of bright spot of the ending there, they kind of walk off together to go have a drink. Like they have this bond, because of Lenny and because of everything that happened. Okay. And finally, the last question, how would you describe George's emotional state after he shoots Lenny? I mean, that's an obvious question. He's blown away, right? He's kind of numb. He can barely speak. And there's not a whole lot that's even said there, but there's something else that's not asked here that I think is important about the ending and how strange it is with the last weird line, right? Last page in 107. George's voice was almost a whisper. He looked steadily at his right hand that held the gun. Slim twitched at George's elbow. Come on, George. Me and you will go get a drink. George let himself be helped to his feet. Yeah, a drink. Slim said, you had to, George. I swear you had to. Now, come on with me. And he leads George into the center of the trail and up toward the highway. They walk off. And then the last paragraph, Curly and Carlson looked after them, and Carlson said, what the hell are you supposed to eat into, guys? What? What's that? Why does he say that so casually, almost comically at the end there? Like, the question is, I mean, I think we know what he means by that, right? But what does Steinbeck mean for one of those guys to sound so cold about something that's so horrible that happened? Why do you think Steinbeck has him say that at the end? Anybody have any thoughts about that? Trace, go ahead.
At first, I thought it was like a comedy thing, like trying to relieve everyone who read it.
Like comic relief or something?
Oh, they don't understand how close Lenny and George are. They don't understand.
Yeah, so maybe a combination of comic relief and them just like not having any comprehension of the bond that you could have like with another human being because everybody else is so isolated. I think that makes sense. Anybody else? Any other ideas there? It's a confusing line. There is one other thing that I think about it, and that is that even though it's hard to accept, that just like nature keeps going and the birds keep flying, the fish keep swimming, and the wind keeps blowing, human beings are going to go on, when someone dies, right? And Candy, even though is it Carlson or Candy says, whichever one of them says that, even though it sounds kind of like hard-hearted, like it or not, the world is going to continue, right? No matter how tragic the death of a person, and it's kind of hard to argue with, even though it seems kind of heartless at the end. It's kind of a true sentiment. All right, guys, that is the end of Mice and Men. And although we're not having a big test on it, that is, I think I'll probably just, I think I can let you guys still hold on to those books. I'll let you know if we need to return them or not. That would be kind of complicated. But this is one of two choices for that literary analysis paper that we will do at the beginning of fourth quarter. Okay, so anybody have any questions about anything else that's going on? To review, basically, we just need to look for the vocab test or a message from me about it being posted. do the grammar. Did you guys have a grammar? Yeah, you guys have a grammar lesson. Yeah, do the grammar lesson. Go back to the share screen for a second here. Be ready for the exam on Monday, which I will put out some descriptions of. And then I think that's it. You guys got any questions about anything else? Y'all good? Congratulations on the end of your semester. We're not going to be live tomorrow. Okay.
Mr. Cooney.
Yes.
Can
I
speak to
just
at
saw
the
you.
end of-
Yeah, I just saw your chat, Caleb. I'll wait up for you. Anybody else? Okay, you guys can go ahead and go. Yeah, what's up, man?
I did this yesterday with another teacher.
Mhm.
It's not about school, but it's about sharing something. I want to share my faith with you. Are you a believer?
I don't share my political or social or religious beliefs with students, Caleb. I'm sorry. I mean, I appreciate you wanting to do that, but I never talk about it. So I hate to let it remain a mystery. I don't want you to take it personally, but it's just something that I've never done.
Just not comfortable with it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm comfortable with where I am with stuff like that, but I don't like sharing it with the reason I don't share it with students, and I don't mind sharing this with you, is because whether it's politics or religion or any kind of like beliefs that people have different sides on, I feel like if I reveal that to classes, then when we do things like have discussions that are about things like that are in stories or that are in like persuasive papers or anything like that, I don't want to seem like I'm on someone's side and not on someone else's side, if that makes sense.
Okay, yeah, I can see that.
Okay, so sorry I can't have that conversation you wanted to have, and I appreciate you, wanting to have that with me, but I hope you understand.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Okay, peace. See you soon, Caleb.